Well, look who's come back to Adarai. We got a lot of stories, so I ain't about to mess around here. Here's a recap. There's a knight, and his name was Hefro, and he was disgraced to something. Then he went to see the king, and then like his boy from way back, like an ex-squire, was like, I want to go with him. And then he was like, I don't know, man. And then like he still was like, And then he was like, okay, I'll let you go with me. And then you wait outside while I'm going to go get murdered by this monster. And then he went off to get murdered by the monster. And that's where we're at now. And I told you, it gets horror-filled. So this is where it starts cracking. Anyways, the name of this story is Calamity Come. This is part 2 by Montsho Shelby. Hefro took out his sword and shield, venturing to high ground in the decimated landscape. He attempted to get his bearings after Leftor had far vanished from sight. There was a withered, smoldering tree at his right that spontaneously erupted in fire. There was not much character or definition in the surrounding lands, just desolation where life should be. On a plateau, Hefro felt the disturbance seconds before he saw it. When one trained in the art of war, as he did, one became attuned to violence as surely as a prophet to prophecy. He stepped behind the withered tree, ignoring the heat that baked his armor. A roar erupted that made the sky shudder and the air crackled with multicolored electrical pops. Hefro looked but could only glimpse the beast in silhouette, but it was bigger than imagining. He felt like a bee set with the daunting task of killing an able-bodied man. He had but a single sting before he would be swatted into nothing. The beast took to the sky, and even a distance away the knight could feel the air displace. Before he could fully glimpse the beast, it had entered into the misty chaos of the ever-changing sky. Hefro felt the cold of its all-consuming shadow. A voice boomed from the heavens and rained down.
I can smell you, human. There is nowhere to hide. Come forth and fight me, for we are destined to do as such. It will be a glorious event, your death. I will see to it.
Hefro looked up to the darkness looming over the sky, and he knew it was true. He had nowhere to hide, and if it wanted to fight, perhaps there was no point in drawing this out. He walked out in the middle of nowhere and made himself easily visible. He embraced the end of his life as an inevitability, a thing that most people claim mastery of, but few truly did. He looked up in the looming shadow, humbled and humanized him. Though, when he stared at the face of his doom, his eyes flickered and twisted as if it took a moment for his brain to make sense of what he was seeing. It was intangible but solid darks. The beast possessed all the colors of the spectrum. Its eyes were bright lights, and its wings created a high-pitched whining drone that was loud at first, but quickly settled into background noise. Its body was a shimmering kaleidoscope that seemed to change what it looked like depending on what angle you happened to be viewing it from. Hefro had no idea what this massive creature was, even though he was clearly gazing into its shimmering eyes. He raised his sword and prepared for a rather swift and one-sided battle. For every step he took, the beast's form wavered and reconfigured like an optical illusion.
Stay your blade, warrior, for our fight was meant to happen, but when it happens and how it concludes are not a foregone conclusion.
Then the outcome is not determined in prophecy, said Hefro. The beast laughed, with each subtle movement from its chest distorting its shape.
It's never known. Prophecy is the drug of fools. I don't know the outcome of any of this.
So you don't know if you will in fact kill me?
No, but more than likely I will not. In truth, I very rarely kill any of you that venture into my domain.
That's a lie. None return, and we find the bodies.
Not dead by my hand, warrior. Most cannot bear the truth of reality and take their own life.
So, you mean to tell me Sir Galzarin and Sir Kinjiro decided to kill themselves? Heathro's skepticism now grew much more than his confusion that the beast chose to speak at all.
You don't believe me, I'm sure, but it's true. When I show them what reality is, they either block it out completely, go mad, or kill themselves. It's true. I am curious as to what your reaction will be.
So you don't rend us apart, you just drive us mad by using casual conversation? It feels quite a misuse of your size to kill through conversation.
I initially thought so too, but I later came to believe the fear of being ripped apart deters visitors easier than the threat of loss of one's sanity. But most don't have the same laissez-faire attitude versus defeating a creature as massive as a mountain.
Sir Heathrow lowered his sword completely as if he were starting to become comfortable with the fact the beast didn't want a conventional duel of brawn, but a test of wills. He had to admit he didn't believe his mind could be broken as easily as his body. So what is it you want, Calamity? What is it you get out of this?
I want to be left the fuck alone, but that never stops people from disrupting that dream. I think I was created to destroy warriors such as yourself.
Created by whom? Brighton?
Yes, created by him. Yes, but ultimately created by his creator as a test of a warrior's sanity. For you see, I am too a slave to forces that even I cannot control. But I wish to ask you a question before we begin, warrior. Why do you want to destroy me?
I want to destroy you because you are a blight on the face of this planet.
Is that so? So the 5-mile radius I live in and rarely ever leave is just too much for you to accept?
Your chaos encroaches.
I haven't moved 1 inch further in 100 years. This is the lie your people tell you to excuse your deplorable behavior.
Heathrow was silent for a long while. For as far as he was concerned, he didn't know if that was true, but this is what he had always been told.
You pause, warrior, so you know it isn't true. Why are you doing this?
I was commanded to do so.
Why?
The shimmering optical illusion asked forcefully, as a punishment.
So they condemned you to die. May I ask what was your offense that a knight was punished with death?
Heathrow hesitated. He was having trouble making his mouth form the words.
It's okay, warrior. You don't have to tell me if you don't like. Your secrets, as all of your existence, are equally meaningless.
Is it? Heathrow said.
Yes, but if it was all pointless, there would be no reason why we'd keep going.
Heathrow paused in thought, and in that moment he realized why so many men had taken their own lives, or at least the premise for it.
I feel as if you're starting to understand, but you don't receive the true clarity unless you experience it for yourself. If you'd like, you can fight it, warrior, but it will overtake you.
Heathrow nodded. For what it's worth, you've been more than fair, the disgraced knight said as he rose his sword and charged forth into the heart of death. The beast opened its mouth, which shimmered with unpredictable and rippling glitches in reality. It released a gas that had within it reflective shards of light that flickered with minuscule images of Heathrow, possible versions of himself, perhaps unrealized choices he chose not to make, or perhaps flickers of memories that were so fractured he couldn't make them out. He felt himself being ripped apart by mirrors of his own potential destinies. Harold woke from his nap. He felt as if he had a vivid dream whose details were rapidly escaping him like water through his fingers. He stood up from his gaming chair and nearly touched the ceiling. His place was affordable, which was a polite way of saying a shithole. But that was all he could afford with the pittance he made. It was time to greet the day anyway, so he figured there was no reason to head back to sleep. Though he did have a few minutes, maybe he could get a little writing in. He sat back down and flipped his laptop open. The blinking of the cursor on the white page was mocking him. As he attempted to start, his eyes desperately darted around his tiny apartment for the slightest reason to stop. There was none, so he created one. He hadn't checked social media today, yet it had been a whole 5 hours and someone surely liked or commented on something he had said by now. Harold, like most of the world, was addicted to a virtual world that he loved intensely that could not love him back. He struggled to be seen, to be heard, to be acknowledged by a mob of people that wanted the same thing as him. The hard truth of it was that there were only so many people that ever managed to break into the cultural zeitgeist. Statistically speaking, Harold knew this, yet and still he was on it every day, sweating the 2 and 3 likes he managed to get. Those likes to him were like tossing a single cracker to a starving man. After what felt like 10 minutes, which was actually an hour, of looking through pop culture memes and porn clips, it was time to go to work. Harold closed his laptop, lamenting the lack of time in the day. Oh well, writing would just have to wait for another day. On the train ride to work, Harold noticed a homeless man with an interesting scar on his face and completely white hair, even though he couldn't have been over 50. If he were a more adventurous soul, maybe he'd walk up to the man and ask him about his life. Unfortunately, he was not, so he didn't. He'd just have to rely on his imagination to fill in the blanks. He got his Starbucks and suited up. It was just another Tuesday to him until she walked in. It was Erin, his own manic pixie dream girl. She wore different colors in her hair every day, had 2 pigtails, freckles, and black makeup on. Harold was certain she was into him, at least he held up hope. He struck up a conversation with her a few months ago when she wore a D&D inspired face mask and they spoke. She was a college student studying liberal arts, a stupid major, but it was better than the 3 months and out experience he had. "Hey Harold," said Erin as she approached the counter. "Hey, how are you?" He came back. "I'm good, but my wizard died last night," she said. "Sorry to hear it," Harold shot back with sincerity reserved for real, living, breathing people, not a fictional wizard in a board game. "She fucked around and found out, and got ripped apart by a dragon," Erin said while reverently making the sign of the cross. "Oh, I read a little bit of your story about the night," she said. Harold perked up while fiddling with the coffee machine. "It's good," she said with a hesitation Harold found instantly suspect. "Well, any feedback you could give me would be great," he said with some measure of excitement. "Not really many women in the thing," she said. Harold's heart dropped because he knew she hadn't even made it 3 pages in. It was brimming with women characters. That was the problem with creating. It wasn't the creation itself, it was getting anyone to give a fuck. It seemed as if being popular and likable was a much better skill than raw talent. Harold glanced at the reflection in the Starbucks window and swore he saw Sir Hefro there, watching him. He handed Erin her coffee and decided he should take a break because he clearly hadn't gotten enough sleep. Harold cracked open his laptop in the break room and felt inspired to write a bit. He could almost sense Hefro's presence when he began to detail the night's biggest disgrace in life. He went over it twice and changed the nature of it until he found just the right amount of fucked up. If this couldn't put eyes on his work, nothing could. He leaned back content with himself when he got the strange feeling of someone guiding his fingers typing for him. Perhaps this was what it was like to have a muse, or perhaps this was brain damage. Hefro rolled from the force of the blast and stooped behind a low rock. His senses were burning. He had seen glimpses of a life not his own, of a man that not only knew his life, but his innermost thoughts and emotions. "What did you do to me?" the knight demanded the beast. In an all-encompassing voice, the beast spoke with a measure of calm that seemed as if he had anticipated Hefro's reaction.
You got a glimpse of the overlord of our reality.
That man? Hefro nearly yelled with his back firmly placed on a rock. He was sure he didn't have an actual protection versus a creature so massive, but it was clear it didn't truly care to fight.
I don't know exactly what you saw, but I'm sure you got a glimpse of your creator, perhaps of your creation.
How do I know he wasn't just a dream or a phantom in my mind?
Come now. Even if he was a figment of your imagination, believing it would only make you crazy.
As opposed to what?
I already told you the general and typical outcomes of people who glimpse into the heart of their reality.
Hefro understood now why the others felt the need to end it all, but yet he hadn't felt that urge now. Not yet, at least. So my tale is created by a misfit in another world. Every moment of my life orchestrated by one malcontent for the sake of entertainment?
Yes, this is true.
Hefro interrupted. Not only is our tale told by an idiot, it's not even a popular tale. He orchestrated the worst tragedies in my life for the sake of amusement.
Yes, he did. Or does. I cannot know for sure,
said the Calamity. How can I ever know for sure if anything in my life matters, or if I had free will at all?
I suppose you'll never know truly. You saw a thing that you were never meant to see, and in knowing, you have changed the direction of your destiny.
I do not know that I can live with this knowledge and exist as the man I am today.
So you choose to die?
No, nor will I forget. I do not intrinsically believe in death for its own sake.
Yet you come here to die.
Hefro said nothing, because letting yourself be killed and putting yourself in a death trap was a mere matter of semantics. If he makes us, who makes him? Said Hefro.
Hard to know, but I believe all life is viewed through a prism. It's a series of infinite mirrors looking into itself.
So we are all just fighting for relevance in a world that may or may not matter in a cosmic sense.
Yes, that is a perfect summation.
The beast said. You were right, beast. I will never be the same knowing what I know. If this maker felt the need to take everything I had, the only way I can retaliate is by taking what is precious to him. I need to be seen, and so do you, said Hefro. If he created me and the consequences that shape this world, then he created you too, which would mean you are a slave to this vicious circle the same as any of us are. You are a thinking being, and I cannot command you, but neither should anything command me. Join me in my quest.
When I first glimpsed you, warrior, I knew you were unique. Never would I have assumed the cunning that resides inside of you.
Hefro stood up, giving the beast full opportunity to utterly destroy him, but he was confident he would not. None of it truly matters, then all thoughts of restraint and decency are shackles holding us back. Will you join me? One captive to another, raging against the endless void. The beast craned its massive neck around Hefro, catching fragments of light twinkling in the sky, and reflected off its skin. Hefro climbed onto the reflective scales, not quite knowing or understanding their contours until he could navigate it through feel. It was as if the creature was what it needed to be from what he assumed it to be. Once the night firmly took hold of the creature, it rose high into the chaotic sky with the rhythmic pump of wings.
Well, warrior, this was your idea. What are we to do next?
Leftor waited patiently for a day. He said he would, but in all honesty, the Calamity never needed that long to dispatch a foe. Now he was only waiting there for honor's sake. A part of him contemplated the notion of riding to Sir Hefro's side to aid him in a battle whose outcome was a foregone conclusion. Even though he was no coward, he had no interest in throwing his life away needlessly. Before Leftor could slow things down and start a campfire, he felt a disturbance far before he saw it. He was struck with an intangible dread that he could neither see nor understand. The air displaced and the Calamity's massive shadow flickered overhead. Leftor looked up just in time to see the ripples of twinkling air, with something small and insignificant on its back. Leftor mounted his horse and spurred him west back towards the way he came, for the Calamity never left its domain, and wherever it went, chaos followed. Hindered by earthbound momentum, Leftor's horse could not hope to give chase, and he lost track of Calamity completely. Leftor didn't stop, he just rode in as straight a line as he could, attempting to follow Calamity's residual chaos and destruction left by its mere presence. Leftor ran his horse for a day and a night, noticing only signs and omens of the beast's movements. It brought unexpected weather and subtle imbalances and anomalies to nature. With every moment he couldn't find the creature, he thought the worse. Soon he would come to realize it was much worse than even he could suspect. The shining beacon of Outer Basque, Clairvoyant, was in ruins. The farms on the outskirts were destroyed and simmering in waning embers. Castle Greymont was ripped apart and in shambles. Bodies of those that might lead any defense were thrown about the landscape like unmoving clutter. Leftor heard the rumblings of thunder and saw the chaotic shift of the sky from day to night. He realized the beast may very well still be there, lying low and basking in its victory. If this was the case, perhaps he could catch the thing unaware when it wasn't in its element. He shed his armor, letting it fall off of his body like dead skin. If he were to have to slay the beast, and it wasn't asleep or unaware, he had no chance. But if he could land a lucky hit, armor would be of no use. He tiptoed through the ruins of the castle that only days before had been his home, host to all manner of life, now reduced to relics and rocks. He moved quickly yet cautiously from column to column before entering the king's court. He was holding out hope that the king made it out at least. But he wasn't very optimistic looking at the bodies showered in rubble. He saw the open face of the courtyard, which still stood. The sky-lit ceiling was wider, as if something massive busted its way in. Bathed in moonlight were the broken and torn pieces of the knights that once defended this place. Leftor didn't reveal himself. He stuck to the shadow until he was sure stealth was no longer an option. He was unused to moving in silence, for he was a knight and not used to any other predator being over him in the food chain. What he at first thought was a trick of the light manifested into a transparent shimmer amidst the broken throne. It made nearly no sense at all that a creature of such immense size was so difficult to notice. It was there, whether he accepted it or not, a ripple of light disguised as a figment of imagination. Unexpected rain broke through the ceiling and revealed glimpses of its true form. Leftor suppressed his shock when he saw the bodies of the king and queen thrown into a bloody pile of corpses, all the dead being equal to the beast. Leftor moved from pillar to pillar in hopes of surprising the beast. He'd have to climb to a higher elevation and hope he caught the thing's neck. He noticed something unspeakable on the throne. A man in deep sorrow was sitting. In the nearly destroyed symbol of the past kingdom, the mysterious man was merely part of the scenery. Until it spoke. Who is there? The mystery figure bade Leftor. With a lunge that housed the last vestiges of hope of an entire nation, Leftor dove down from the top of the column. His blade glinted in the chaotic moonlight as he descended. A transparent hand bigger than the entirety of his body snatched the young knight from the air, giving the illusion he was levitating. Red lightning struck, revealing rows upon rows of teeth bigger than cavern stalactites. As the creature motioned to toss Leftor in its gullet, the mysterious knight spoke. No, let him go. The mountainous beast flicked the armorless knight onto the ground like dice. Leftor looked up, and to his dismay, he saw Sir Hefro at the creature's side. "What? Why? I thought," Leftor said, unable to find the words. Hefro kneeled down and pulled Leftor up. After he did, the young knight backed away in a ready position. "Do your duty," Hefro said, drawing his sword, giving Leftor ample time to draw his. Leftor picked up his sword, but did not point it. "What have you done?" "I did what I had to, so that we could be real." "What are you talking about?" "If I explain it to you, you'd go as mad as I am." "So you're not yourself. Stop now, and we could slay the beast together." "I wish it was that simple. If I don't destroy us all, no one will care, and if no one cares, we cease to be." "It's bewitched you. Fight it. Remember your oaths that you were willing to die for not 2 days ago. It was your life." Hefro smiled, and a tear streamed down his face. "If you saw what I saw, you'd know why this has to happen. Our oaths are just words uttered in gale winds. It never truly mattered. We were written to be this way before we were even born. Now defend yourself," said Hefro. The armored knight came at the younger man with screaming fury. Leftor no longer had the luxury of knowing why. He readied in defense. Hefro's blade slid down Leftor's in the light drizzle given from the heavens. Leftor rolled to the side, parrying the strike, and shoulder bumped this man he utterly respected, slightly off balance. Hefro punched Leftor with his offhand, but the younger warrior headbutted him, driving him back. Hefro came in with a relentless figure-8 pattern flurry, and in his form there was a moment where Leftor saw an opening, a chance, an invitation to kill him, but he didn't take it. Hefro did not give his friend a second chance. As his blade thudded into flesh, breaking through bone and chopping into muscle through the clavicle to the chest, Leftor looked down at his mortal wound with shock. He wasn't surprised he might die. He was more surprised that Hefro went through with it. His dying eyes looked at his friend and asked a question. Why? But Hefro's tears were masked by the rain. "You do not realize it yet, but I'm making you immortal. You can't die now. You will always be alive in deeds." Leftor dropped to his knees, and quickly his blood fled his body. "They will remember us now?" Hefro said to Calamity, who watched the drama unfold as a mere onlooker in a ghastly play.
"I doubt it."
"You doubt it?" Hefro said angrily.
"Just because you know your fate doesn't mean you should change it,"
the beast bellowed. "Why did you let me rampage if you thought it meant nothing?"
"It didn't mean nothing. It was fun. To me, at least. Watching you work out the borders of your reality was rather entertaining."
"What have I done?" Hefro said. "I killed all these people to appease thankless gods that never cared to begin with."
"People tend to like tragedy more than heroics, if it makes you feel better."
"It does not," said Hefro, dropping his sword. "Kill me."
"Now you wish to die,"
said the beast. "You are right. I can't live with this. I'm not prideful enough to say otherwise."
"I can't kill you now,"
the beast said while jumping up into the oddly colored purple and blue sky. "Why?" yelled Hefro.
"Because now you're a tragic character. Your arc hasn't finished,"
Calamity said while disappearing into the chaotic haze. Hefro dropped to his knees in the glorious chaos he had created, more broken than when he was in a lightless cell. Was he born in those first moments before the torchlight touched his skin? Was this moment his death? Could he only be alive between this horrific moment and that awakening? These were questions he might never know. But perhaps it was better to have never existed at all than to be beholden to sick beings that reveled in his misery. Thank you so much for watching. And this was all made possible by grants from viewers like you. Alright, get out your envelopes and your stamps and send me money now. Or like or subscribe. Either or the other, but not both of them. Or either, I don't care, whatever. Now get the hell out of my house. Night night.